Hey everyone, and welcome back to Serena's Toy Room. Today we're going to be looking at the cast of Monster High Chronicles, my upcoming Monster High G3 series. So as I've stated in previous videos, this series is not going to follow the G3 canon. It's going to be like my own kind of continuity, and I just wanted to make this video to kind of like talk about it a little more so you're not going in completely blind expecting like all the canon of G3, because it's very different. Honestly, a lot of it is very G1 coded, but it's very much my own thing, and you'll see that as the show comes out and stuff, but I'll explain it a little bit as we show the characters. Of course, we have to start with the main character, Frankie Stein. I'm not using flash or anything in this video because I like how the shadows look on the dolls and sets and stuff. It adds to like the gothic aesthetic, which is kind of like the vibe of the show. And I feel like the dolls kind of look better in the shadows, which sounds kind of shady, but they kind of do. Like, hold on. You see what I mean? Like, it's not really giving with the flash on. I feel like I'm gonna like desaturate the colors a little bit in the show. Very like Dark Falls tease, not quite on that same level, but just a little bit to make it seem more dark and dreary. So, Frankie Stein. So only being 15 days old, Frankie goes into Monster High very naive, thinking the best of everyone, thinking everyone is going to be their best friend, everyone's so accepting and stuff, but of course they realize that not everyone is the nicest. When they learn about the humans, they're like kind of shocked someone could have so much like hatred in their hearts. So they kind of think like, why don't we try to like change that? If no one else is going to, then I'm going to do it. They kind of have that like can-do spirit. They're very positive a lot of the time. The monsters for like centuries have kind of been in hiding from the humans, or the normies rather. And Frankie's kind of the one that kickstarts this whole revolution of not necessarily fighting back, but like protesting. And they're all about like peaceful protesting. Like they don't want to like add more fuel to the flame. They just want to like show the normies that like we're people too, despite us looking different, and we just want to be friends and we want to be treated equal. And with the help of Brett Redding's human original character, which we'll see in a little bit, they get to action and start to protest a little bit. Brett is goth, so of course he's different than like the standard normie. So he kind of like already has like a fascination towards the dark, and so he's not afraid of the monsters at all. He actually finds them quite interesting and relates to them a lot more than he would with the normies. So he's more than happy to advocate for them, as well as Melody, who's another original character. And Frankie kind of develops a little bit of feelings towards Brett, and because like Frankie's obviously different in many ways than Brett, they don't think someone so wonderful could ever fall in love with them. Even though Frankie's a big advocate for monster rights, like they still have a lot to learn about loving themselves, so we kind of go on to that journey as the series goes on. Draculaura is one of the characters that has changed the most from the original source material, kind of in similar vein to Cleo, but very different. You'll see in the show. She's kind of similar to Galinda from Wicked in the sense that she values popularity more than anything, and her main goal in life, or unlife, is to be adored by her peers. She's obviously the daughter of Dracula, who's like the most famous monster of all time, and she kind of like uses that to her advantage. She like needs to let you know, like, I'm the daughter of Dracula, like I'm famous and you will adore me. She wants to be friends with everyone at Monster High, not because she likes them, but because she uses that to gain more popularity. Like she wants these people to view her as a friend, but she doesn't want to be friends with them, if that makes any sense. But a lot of the student disembody actually doesn't really care for her. Venus, Heath, Torlai, and Abbey and Cleo, to name a few, they don't fuck with her at all. They think like she's fake, she's a poser, she's a bitch. Venus and Heath's like main thing about her is that they think because she has so much influence that she should be using her voice to speak out about monster rights, but because she's so comfortable in her position and she doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, especially with her father, she kind of keeps silent. Silence is violence, in the words of Heath and Venus. They mostly hate her because they think she's a poser and a coward for not speaking out against that sort of stuff. Cleo just hates her because like she's like the fellow popular girl, pretty much. Abbey just thinks she's annoying and will try to beat her up at any chance she gets. And Torlai also just thinks she's annoying, I guess. She doesn't think anything of these people, by the way. Like, she just thinks they're jealous of her, but she is so blind to any criticism that she doesn't see. They're not jealous of her at all. Like, they don't really give a fuck about her at all. So as the series goes on, we'll get to see a little bit of character growth in that as well. Clawdeen isn't very different from the G1 source material, I guess. She's like a fashionista. She likes being with her friends, but she's also quite a bit of a gossip. Like, she's always, "You'll never guess what I heard this morning from this person," sort of thing. She's kind of like outspoken. She'll always kind of tell you how it is. When it comes to like the monster protesting, she's kind of like comfortable how it is. She's kind of concerned if they fight back against the normies, like it'll just make things worse for them. So she's kind of like, let's just keep it how it is, and like we're hidden from them for the most part. Like, let's just chill before we make things worse. Like, we're comfortable right now. She's really into music, and she's Draculaura's best friend. She's a daughter of another famous monster, the Wolfman. Draculaura kind of like uses that to her advantage in a way. Clawdeen is probably like the only ghoul in school that Draculaura like genuinely finds a friend and not like a fake friend to use for popularity. Until Frankie comes along, of course, because Frankie is the child of Frankenstein's monster. After Dracula, like, Frankenstein's like the most popular monster of all time. So yeah, she's kind of like Draculaura's like second in command, but she's obviously a lot nicer. Cleo is the most popular ghoul in school, second being Draculaura, and Draculaura is always just trying to kind of one-up Cleo in a way. You know, she's also the daughter of like one of the most famous monsters of all time, the Mummy. Even though like most people don't necessarily like Cleo either, they do have to kind of respect her for not being as much of a coward. Like, she'll kind of tell you how it is. And although she believes in monster rights and stuff like that, she's also kind of scared about speaking out about it. She's popular, she's a princess, she's like the daughter of one of the world's most famous monsters, so she's kind of comfortable with where she is in that position. She doesn't want to like tamper that in any way by speaking out against a cause. She's dating Deuce the most popular guy at Monster High, so she kind of just has it made and stuff, and she really dislikes Frankie, especially when like the whole revolution kind of starts. Like, she kind of blames Frankie for all the things that go wrong for the monsters, because if it wasn't for them, like none of this would have happened, sort of thing. For Deuce, he doesn't really have much going on, to be quite honest with you. He's kind of similar to G1 Deuce, but my only changes are he's kind of himbo, doesn't really know whether he's coming or going. But everyone like adores him because he's popular and he's good looking. Yeah, he doesn't really have much going on, as of right now at least. He works at the Coffin Bean in the mall. That's about it. Like, he doesn't really have much of an opinion on the monster rights movement. He kind of just does whatever Cleo says, because whatever Cleo says is fact, and he just wants to keep his school happy. For Lagoona, as you kind of saw in the trailer, she's kind of like a punching bag. She's kind of like Butters in the sense that she's so like positive and innocent, and yet everyone kind of just shits on her, which I think is so funny. But she doesn't really mind. She's kind of like, oh my god, they like talked to me, even though they just like insulted her. And I think she's so funny. Like, it's such an ongoing thing in the Monster High doll community, especially for G3 Lagoona, that anytime something happens, anytime like there's a doll that gets destroyed by a collector or something, it's always a Lagoona doll for some reason. Like, if you're in the community, you know. So I thought it would be like a funny ongoing joke for everyone that kind of just constantly shit on Lagoona for no reason. She's just happy to be here, honestly. For the girlies that only watch me here on YouTube and don't follow me on anything else, this will be like your first time seeing some of these background characters. So for Ghoulia, she's essentially to Cleo what Clawdeen is to Draculaura, like her second in command. She's very much just like G1 Ghoulia, the smartest ghoul in school, and she's kind of like everyone's beast ghoul friend. She's what Draculaura thinks she is. Draculaura thinks like she's everyone's friend and like everyone adores her and stuff, but they kind of don't. At least most of them. Some people do, but like not everyone. But Ghoulia is exactly that, without even trying. Like, Heath and Venus like love her. That's their ghoul, they don't play about her. She's always eager to help anyone with like their homework and stuff. Like, she's very chill despite being friends with Cleo, who's like the total opposite. So yeah, she's very sweet. Some of these characters you probably won't even see for a good while, halfway through the season at least. Twyla, she's kind of like a mystery to Monster High. People know of her, but not many people have seen her, sort of thing. Like, she's always in the shadows, as she typically is, as the daughter of the boogeyman. She's really weird. If she sees like a spider on the wall, she'll like pick it and eat it, sort of thing. But she's also very wise. Like, when the ghouls kind of get to know her and stuff, they go to her for advice, and she kind of has like all this knowledge, because even though people don't really see her, she kind of knows everyone and kind of knows all their tea. So if they need to know something, she's the ghoul to go to. Torlai, she's kind of similar to G1 Torlai. She's kind of a shit disturber. She likes to start drama. Most of the antagonists in the show are going to be human, but in terms of like monsters, like, she's probably the main antagonist besides Cleo. She's all about the monster revolution, but she's very much the opposite to Frankie. Like, Frankie's all about peaceful protesting and, you know, like, let's be kind about this. Torlai's like, screw that, like, we're gonna fight. They've killed our kind for generations, and if any of them get in our way, we'll kill them. And because she's much more aggressive and outspoken, more the monsters kind of take her side. So I guess we'll see how that plays out in the show. Abbey is definitely like the toughest ghoul in school. Like, she doesn't really fuck with anybody. She's more of a loner. She doesn't really even like anybody. Ghoul she hates most of all, like I've said before, is Draculaura. She just finds her obnoxious and will like threaten to beat her up at any chance. So yeah, she's very tough. I've tried to give her kind of like a white goth kind of outfit, which I hate the name of, white goth. Like, okay, but it's essentially what it sounds like, gothic clothing, but instead of like the stereotypical black, it would be in white. And I tried to do that to her to kind of keep it kind of gothic, but also, you know, to reflect that she is like an icy ghoul. And I feel like it did okay. But yeah, she's very cold-hearted, so to speak. And she's very like upfront, she'll tell you how it is. And as the series goes on, we'll see her open up a little bit and become friends with some people. You'll just have to wait and see. Claude, of course, is Clawdeen's older brother. He's like the big man on campus. He's very popular. He's a bit of a player, not necessarily like a womanizer, but like, you know, he's very flirtatious. He has like a dating history with Cleo, and because she's the most popular, he wants to go for the next popular girl, which is Draculaura. And kind of initially sees her as like a trophy to be won, sort of thing. And he's like, if I can back Draculaura, then I can back anyone. And Draculaura's like near 1600 years of living. She's never had like a real boyfriend before. So she kind of like really falls head over heels in love with Claude. And of course, Claudeen is like, well, you're not about to date my brother. You got me fucked up. Again, very G1 coded, like it's like a forbidden romance sort of thing. And I guess we'll see how that relationship plays out, but Claude is very for human rights, and like we said with Draculaura, she'd much rather be comfortable. So that's like another big point of tension for them, I suppose. Spectra Vandergeist, which I just love the look of her. I think she's probably my favorite restyle I've done. I got her outfit on Etsy. So she's also very, very different from any of her source materials across any generation. I don't want to get too deep into her lore, because like that's going to be revealed when she's introduced, which won't be for a while, it's going to be later on. But without spoiling anything, like her dress is inspired by a Victorian mourning dress and how the ladies would wear veils to cover their faces. It's not a wedding dress, which I know it kind of looks like. She died in like the Victorian era. She kind of resides in the attic of Monster High. Headmistress Bloodgood is the only person that knows she's even up there. Like, it's a whole thing, but like we'll get into it when that episode comes out. But yeah, very excited for her. She's so beautiful. She is very like insecure about her appearance. She used to be human, but when she died and became a monster, she was kind of like, no one look at me, like I'm ghastly, I'm hideous, like no one look at me, sort of thing. Like, so she wears the veil not only because she's in mourning, but to kind of like hide her face a little bit too. And she never comes down from the attic. She just doesn't want to be seen. She's very shy and self-conscious. She's quite the tragic character. I'm very excited for you to see more of Spectra. Venus's style, since her debut, has always been described as eco-punk. So I knew when I wanted to restyle her that I wanted to delve more into the punk influence rather than gothic. Although I love Venus's dolls across the board, I will say like they're very watered down as far as like punk influences go, and to be more palatable towards children and the general audience. I wanted her to look more like authentically punk. Of course, punk is like, as well as goth, is more of a mindset. It's music-based ideologies, and fashion is kind of secondary. I did want her to look more stereotypically punk. She's one of my favorite restyles. Her and Heath, they kind of come as a package duo, but they're best friends. They mostly kind of keep to themselves, like they mostly only hang out by themselves, unless it's Ghoulia. They love Ghoulia. They're all about monster rights. Actually, Frankie is introduced to this movement by them. I guess I'll show you Heath now. Heath's skateboard doubles as a protest sign. Skateboard, but then underneath it says monster rights, so he can like lift it up at a protest and stuff. So that's how Frankie in the first episode will be introduced to this movement. And when they want to start a revolution, they kind of go to Venus and Heath as like, can you guys help me get this thing started? And they're like, bitch, of course. So yeah, they're very like political in that way. They hate bigotry, they hate normies. They think all normies are bad, and a good normie is a dead normie, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how they will play out. They're like some of my favorite characters that I've not made up, because obviously they're based on existing characters, but like my interpretation, you know what I mean. But yeah, I think they're really cool. Heath, I'm very excited for as well, in terms of how he and Abbey will play out. He's very flirtatious, much like Claude. Is always like flirting with ghouls and stuff, and you know, other things, you know how boys are. Abbey is the first school that he sees that he's genuinely like, wow, she's like gorgeous. Like I might actually be developing some feelings towards her. But my interpretation of him is that he's very hot-headed, he's very like short-fused. If you like mouth off to him, like he'll go off on you, sort of thing. But when he meets Abbey, like he starts really developing feelings towards her, but he kind of like rejects it over and over again. He thinks love is like a weakness, and to like protect his tough guy image, he tries to play it off all cool and stuff. Another thing of his is that he's never felt like the physical touch of another monster before, because when he touches something it burns. So he wears like these special gloves, like heat protecting gloves. Obviously when you wear like gloves like that, like you can't actually feel something, like it's through a layer of whatever. And especially Abbey, who's like the polar opposite of him, literally. He's afraid that if he ever gets too close to her, like he'll hurt her or worse. And they kind of teach each other a lesson on, you know, not being so harsh, I guess, and they learn to open up to each other and become better monsters because of it. I've like explained it a little bit in my other video when I showed off my restyles. Most of the dolls that you're seeing in this video have been revamped since that video. A lot of them looked really chopped in that original video. Venus is not really interested in being in love with anyone. She is a woman lover, which I think will be like the first official like full-on lesbian character in the SCU. We've had like some brief lesbian characters in Rolling Metal Time, but they were like so minor in season 1, like I'm sure most of you don't even remember who they are. I barely do. So this will technically be like the first like full-on lesbian in the SCU, and I'm surprised it took this long. It's kind of to make up for the fact that Frankie and Cleo are not an item in this series. I had a feeling a lot of people would be upset about that. You know, from my interpretation, I feel like it makes sense for what the series will become. And I feel like it's such a common thing in shows when there's a boy and a girl best friend that they somehow end up as a couple, and I did not want that to be a thing between them because I don't see it at all. I just want them to be friends. Last but certainly not least are my original characters, Brett Redding and Melody Carver. Which, if you're a fan of the Lacey Harrison Monster High books, you'd recognize those names. They're not based on those characters, but the names are the same. I love these two so much. They're very special to me. They're like my children. Specifically Melody, like I'm so maternal towards her. She's, in a way, kind of like my self-insert, even though I look nothing like her, I wish. But I feel like me and her kind of have a lot in common, so she's kind of like my self-insert in a way. We won't be introduced to Melody for a little while in the show, but Brett comes pretty early on. He is the main human ally. They go to school with the main antagonist of the show, Vanessa Van Helsing, who is a descendant of Van Helsing, who notoriously is the world's most famous monster hunter. Her whole thing is like wanting to complete the work that her great-great-grandfather can complete. She wants to abolish all the monsters, get rid of them completely. She's like fear-mongering all the humans and saying like, they'll stalk you in the night and take your children, they'll kill you if they get the chance. Brett and Melody are the only humans that side with the monsters, so their whole thing is trying to use their normie privilege to advocate for them in a way. Frankie meets Brett one night, and because Brett has a liking towards the darkness, like I said before, like he views himself more with the monsters than the humans, and he takes a liking to them a lot. That I just so happened to use Save Frankie Jackson as the base for Brett, so he has a little stitch on his cheek, but it actually works out perfectly. I have like an in-universe reasoning as to why he has the stitch. Obviously Frankie has a stitch on their cheek. Like they kind of think like, we are not so different, I guess, like maybe he'll like me. And then we meet Melody. Although they are stylistically similar, Brett and Melody are kind of different. Brett is more stubborn, he's more outspoken, he's more sarcastic, where Melody is more shy and introverted. She doesn't have any friends. She has kind of like a rough home life, and she's, I don't want YouTube to get mad at me, but you know, she's a little sewer slidle. Before she does the deed, she goes to the cemetery and she prays to an angel. If there's like an angel out there looking over me, please let yourself be known. And Frankie just so happens to be at the cemetery. That's when they meet. We'll see more of that in that episode whenever that comes out. As I've stated, Frankie has a thing for Brett, but later on, so does Melody. So it's a little bit of a love triangle going on. But yeah, I really love them, like they're my children, and I'm very excited for you guys to get to know them. So yeah, those are all the main characters in the show right now. There'll be more characters added later on, I'm sure. As for Vanessa Van Helsing, she would have been in this video, but truthfully, I don't have an outfit put together for her just yet. I have the doll in mind, I just don't have an outfit for her, so that's why she's not in this video. But I've already kind of told you about her anyway. So yeah, I hope you guys are as excited for the show as I am. I think it's going to be really great, and if it turns out how I imagine, it's going to be arguably my best show. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!